Now begins the fun part for the President and the easy part, sir. Uh, the members of the core group, this is the reward for their loyalty to their attendance during the year. I allow them, I'm the mother hen here and the dictator. So. And I allow them to ask questions of the President during this time of the year. Joanne, would you like to start? Miss Joanne Ramirez of STAR.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning, John.
Mr. President, perhaps I prepared this question before Ruby. I heard of Ruby, so I was going to ask you, after you stepped down from office, has the thought of running for office, not necessarily president, crossed your mind? Because I know JFK seriously thought of running for senator after he stepped down from office, and he didn't think it was a downgrade or something. So your plans after 2016, when you could, would you run for another office and serve?
After 2016, I think the foremost on my mind, together with my cabinet, is to take at least a year's break and recharge and recover from all the tensions, turmoil, concerns over the past 6 years by that time. So I think I will try to look for a means to serve in another capacity rather than elective office.
Secretary Domingo, in fact, said that he was not afraid of the future because you would be there as fiscalizer.
Well, I think there are very many roles that can be done, not just in politics. And perhaps I owe it to those closest to me, especially my sisters, for instance, and even some of my staff who have been with me since Congress. They are all looking forward to some time off.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas, Mr. President.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Joanne. Ms. Rina. Rina Jimenez David of the Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. In fact, the question I had in mind was to ask you, what is the first thing you would do when the new president is inaugurated? When you come home from Luneta and the new president is sworn in, what are your personal plans? Where would you go? What would you do? What would be the first thing on your mind?
Well, going back to times, staying in my own bed, in my own house will be and relishing that point. No? And perhaps looking forward to the following day when I don't have to wake up too early. I can laze around and get used to living in times again. Then perhaps visit the neighborhood joints like the supermarket and the fast food joints all around.
You were saying that you were thinking that there were other ways to serve after you leave office. Is there a particular field? Would you go like your mother did into cooperatives and NGO work? Or is there a field of endeavor, a special field of endeavor that you're thinking of?
People from our political persuasion seem to note that there is how should I put it, a dearth of institutionalizing the lessons that have been learned. No? So perhaps one of the dreams is perhaps we can write a book to share the experiences. No? But more importantly, we really want to interact with the youth and really help shape the next generation so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. In exactly what form, no, I'm not exactly sure at this point in time. We are concerned with today's issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julie. Ms. Julie Yapdaza, Manila Bulletin.
Happy Advent, Mr. President. I was listening to you preside over that NDRRMC meeting yesterday for all of 3 hours. And I'd like you to confirm or deny that from the way you were reacting to the presentation, you're somewhat obsessive compulsive. The way you pay attention to the minutiae of specifics, details, I think that was the first time we saw how your brain works. How would you describe yourself?
At the end of the day, I think I'm ultimately responsible for how this government works. No? And I want to impress upon everybody that it's not just doing something, but rather doing the right thing. And in certain instances, I really have to, how should I say, press and overcome the inertia of some of the members of the bureaucracy. And I think that question will be better put to the secretaries present who are, who they claim are sometimes tortured and have to endure a thesis-like defense presentation whenever I have to ask the questions. But at the end of the day, I really want to be able to say to myself when I look at myself in the mirror that we have done everything that was humanly possible to address whatever issue it was. And I impress upon that on all the members of this government and not just in the executive that we do bear a responsibility to everybody, and we should not have a period where we are regretting that we could have done something and we didn't choose to do so. So perhaps that is my way of making sure that everybody is doing the utmost in their respective roles.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade the quality of the presentation? Were you very happy, slightly happy? Did you think you wanted more out of their inputs?
Some of it, it was a 3-hour meeting, but some of it was already in shorthand. For instance, the OST, of course, we had to learn about the science of all of this. We had to be clarified, precise, as to the precise meaning of all of the phrases and words and the jargon that was being thrown about, in hopes of being able to direct the necessary actions in a more precise manner. So I was very happy with the OST presentation. DPWH, when Secretary Singson says the equipment that are creating the Millennium Challenge Corporation's road in Samar is ready, which helped us in Yolanda, is still available. And they tell us that they are even more prepared than Yolanda, then it doesn't have to be talked about too long. When the AFP and the PNP also say that their units, their personnel are pre-positioned to include the maintenance, the logistics supplies, then you're come. When DOE says there is fuel abundant already in Leyte alone, also. No? So perhaps
What grade would you give?
all of them. If I say they're at 80 or 90, they might relax. So can I just say that they're at 50, pending resolution of this crisis?
Did something like this happen before Yolanda hit? We were not so conscious about climate change at the time, no? Unlike this year.
Well, prior to Yolanda, you had Pablo, you had Sendong, that were localized in impact.
Like a dress
and intensity.
rehearsal.
In a sense. No? We thought the Zamboanga crisis with 100,000 mouths to feed was big. No? Then Yolanda comes and it was 1.47 million families affected. And the sheer logistics involved, no? Transferring all of these resources from either Luzon or Mindanao to get it into the areas most affected, especially Region 8, where you had to clear the roads, where you had to clear the airports, rebuild the ports, and get everything organized was really a very, very severe challenge. It still is a challenge.
So we can say that tomorrow will be a much better scenario,
In
that
terms of
everything will be in place in a better way.
in terms of preparation, but of course, the track is not yet definite. No? There are 2 high pressure, I think you heard it yesterday, 2 high pressure areas that are impacting on the direction of Ruby. And dependent on how they
Converge.
influence Ruby's path, that will, yesterday for instance, I don't know if you caught it, but I was asking, so we are looking at this, the red portion, we are looking at this as the probable track. And then we shift the resources to areas where they will be safe. If there is a divergence from that path, will it not be that our resources are in the place where the most destruction will happen? So they have been, I think they're doing the actual planning to make sure that regardless, we're not putting all of the eggs in one basket. So regardless of where this track eventually finally settles, then we will be able to do a lot better than Yolanda. Of course, dependent on the magnitude of Ruby.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Julie. Next, Sandy, do you have a question? Sandy Masigan of Travel Life.
Good morning, Mr. President, and advance Merry Christmas. My question is, since you assumed office, so many young people like myself have decided to come home from abroad and, find a way to be able to contribute and help the country. And I know a lot of these young people would like to go and be public servants. So what advice would you give these future public servants?
I think it's parang inappropriate for me to say so, no? Pero parang it's like marriage. It's a commitment. You're not, if you're going to be honest, you're not going to get rewards in terms of financial considerations. No? The satisfaction will come from really impacting on people's lives, especially for us, so those really on the margins of society, and your ability to be able to contribute. I guess it also flows from why is the situation as it is. No? I think I'm misquoting JFK when he said, some people see things as they are and ask why. And he said, if I can remember the quote, he asks why not. So instead of having the same problems with each generation, having to repeat, trying to address them, if we really put in our 2 cents worth, and we really contribute, then the next generation should be solving a different set of problems, and we are progressing. So especially the young, you have after college perhaps, easily you can do 5 years without being too delayed in your respective careers later on. And the energy that you bring in for those of us who are a little less young, added with our experience, really does make finding the solutions that much easier. So at the end of the day, you can stay on the sidelines and complain till hell freezes over, or you can take an active part in it and be proud that you contributed to changing the status quo, leading to the improvement of everybody's lives.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Andy. Ms. Dominique Torrevillas of Star.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. What have been the happiest moments in your life as President of the Republic? None?
No,
Many, too many.
Well, siguro, when you look at the economy, when you have all of those credit ratings upgrades, when you get the investment grade status would be one of them. When we started out, we said there will be an improvement of lives, and the economy really has to improve, and it has to be very inclusive. So when NEDA reports that there are about 2.5 million people lifted out of poverty, and this was just last year's figures, parang above the poverty threshold. There are, anyway, and 1.6 million net new jobs when manufacturing comes in, when TESDA has all of these graduates that have really improved their lots in life. I think the Sona, we highlighted one of them. He was a barker in Negros. He's now a senior supervisor at a BPO outfit in, if I remember correctly, Negros. Then you can go on and on with the list. Things are changing. When Undoy hit, for instance, I had a staff member whose house was in the path of Undoy, and I was a senator at the time and asking so many people to assist her because we were in Mindanao at that point in time. I think we got to rescue her about, 36 hours later. And when we got back to the NCR, you see all of these tarpaulins wherein the DSWD is asking for donations. We're going to Cyprus. To now, where we are pre-positioned, and besides Yolanda, I think we were ready to meet the disaster head-on. We were not reactive, we were proactive. That makes me happy also. But I guess at the end of the day, when you see the renewed optimism and the attitude that is different in our people, where it seems nothing is impossible, that I think brings out the greatest elation. From the time we stepped into office where there was massive cynicism, where the primary goal was how to leave the Philippines, to now Sandy was just talking about the young coming back home. That again makes us all happy, makes all of this worthwhile.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique.
Yes, I have one more question.
You have another question?
How do you describe your relationship with the media? Has the media reported faithfully what you would like to be told the public?
Siguro like any product, you get what you pay for. there are certain publications that make it a point to not just say it's half empty, but almost totally empty, regardless of whatever the topic is. There are those that will tend to be objective, you know. And but there is of course that temptation to be negative. You know, we had one dialogue in Tagaytay with senior members of the industry, and we were asking and we were appealing. We are all Filipinos here. Shouldn't there be a balance between the negative and the positive? And the reply was, that is not our job. No. I said, it is not your job when you help us grow the economy, when you motivate our people. Why can it not be your job when you are part of the society? Why bring everybody down when there are good stories that can bring them up and have a balance? So I guess we have learned to deal with each other. No? And hopefully, you know, I really try to strive for a consensus, and it's still a work in progress, be it the church, be it media, be it other sectors. You know, the appeal has always been, why don't you look at what we're trying to do? And if we can improve, we are always ready to listen. And if we are wrong, please do point it out. We want to correct it. No? But please don't start out dialoguing with us with a mind that is already closed. No? That is really such a waste of time and redounds to nobody's benefit.
Thank you.
Well said, Mr. President. Ms. Telma. Telma San Juan of PDI.
Good morning, Mr. President. We honestly wish you a merry, love-filled Christmas.
I'll talk to Joshua and Bimbi about that.
Since you already preempted my signature question, may I ask two questions? Well, I know the enormity of the task is such that it's hard to set priorities. But between now and 2016, when you step down, what will be your ultimate focus that you think has a long way to go pa?
The main theory is when I'm asked, for instance, so how do you perpetuate that which you have already started? Then at the end of the day, sovereignty resides in the people. The people really have to feel that there were significant changes and that they were responsible for these changes. So 2015 really is focused on demonstrating so many of the results, be it infrastructure, be it a better employment picture, be it more investments, and so on and so forth. So if there is a direct correlation that they gave us this opportunity, this mandate, we will be reaping the fruits in 2015 substantially. Therefore, we can have that picture of what can be achieved, building upon that which we already did. So the focus on 2015, again, is more intensified inclusivity of the growth in the economy and the empowerment of the people, and that this is very palpable to everybody. That is, I guess, the main focus for the remaining time.
How about the PPP, sir?
In PPP, we have already bidded out 8. No? We are awarded 8, actually. There are 15 in the pipeline. We should note that the previous 3 administrations had 6 solicited PPP projects. We have already surpassed that, and we think there will be a lot more, especially for next year.
You are known as a music lover. Has the presidency affected your music taste? In what way?
Well, music became more important. Number one, you look for, the Great American Songbook, jazz standards at night to calm down, or sometimes religious songs when you really need to calm down. Sometimes you need to be filled with energy, so it becomes either rock or some dance music. Sometimes you need something really different to take your mind off things, so it becomes classical. No, except rap. No? I still don't like rap, with all due apologies. No,
How about love songs?
if I can avoid them, I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thelma. Now, Chai Santiago. May follow-up. Sir, can we allow Miss Julie a follow-up? Okay. All right. Please use the microphone.
I can't let this question go. Follow up, speaking of music, to whom in the government, not just the cabinet, to whom in the government would you sing Let It Go? I see you haven't watched that movie, Mr. President.
Frozen, Mr.
I'm
President,
culturally
frozen.
deficient in that, that aspect.
Let it go.
I really can't comment intelligently on that. No? Rene's version is not doing it justice. Perhaps I should watch that while waiting for developments of Ruby sometime tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Miss Chai Santiago, our blogger for...
Good morning, Mr. President. Speaking of religious songs, what will you tell the Pope when you meet with him?
I'm the host, and normally I let the visitor ask the questions or channel steer the discussions. And of course, he's the Holy Father. No? We'll have something like a maximum of 1 hour, and I'm sure there are so many people who would want to have an opportunity to be blessed with him, blessed by him rather, in that 1 hour. So I guess I really will leave the discussion topics to him, out of respect.
What will you ask him to pray for you or for the what?
For the country. We are visited by so many typhoons, and they come in at very unseasonal moments, and they're very strong. We also have the earthquakes and the volcanoes. And our ability to stop the cycle of destruction and reconstruction. The goal really is to, when we reconstruct, it's better, it withstands the glowing intensity of the effects of global climate change better, and our people are spared the ravages of the increasing challenges. So I'm sure some are asking, why are we being visited with all of this? Always at this point when it is supposed to be the most joyous and most celebratory period of the year.
Thank you, Chai. Ida Sevilla of the Inquirer.
Mr. President, when you're no longer president and you're free to do what you want to do, would you buy your dream car? And what is your dream car?
Can I check on 2015 models before answering that question?
There are some classic cars, you know.
The classic, I'm really not into it. I really want to, when I turn the ignition switch, I want it to start all the time. I don't want it to be a labor of love.
Yeah.
Can I ask,
Okay.
among your achievements at this point of your presidency, which one do you think will be the most lasting one, no matter who succeeds you, whether an opposition or Liberal Party?
No, again, no. When, for instance, we said good governance is good economics. To the 4.1 million families benefiting from the CCT, if somebody decides, those of you who have the least ability to impact your own lives, we will remove this, in fact, this crutch, this aid to you. They will say, why will you have to remove it? No? And they will have a voice, even if they have been empowered. When you have the students talking about better quality education, more opportunities everywhere. You name the particular sector of society, and they are demanding of government that which government should be doing to begin with. Then I think that will be the legacy. Instead of merely just accepting what is, they are now demanding what should be as a normal right. Then if we have been able to transform them into that, then I think it was all worth it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. Now, just so that the President won't think this is an old ladies club, I'd like to call one male member, a new male member, Bob Sosobrado of the Manila Standard, to ask a question. We have broken the gender barrier, sir.
Morning, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to wish you well, and I hope you last your term so that you can get rid of more crooks. Secondly, I would like to ask you, have you ever found yourself talking or asking help from your parents on some crisis that the country was faced with? Did you ever get to that situation?
Yes, I think from the start to even last night. I was praying to both my mom and my dad. and asking for strength, guidance, wisdom. Even if I don't pray to them, they serve as the inspiration. Now, whenever I face a crisis, I look at all the crises that they had to undergo and that they overcame. So I said, and normally I say, what I'm undergoing now pales in comparison to what they had to undergo with perhaps even less resources to address. So that serves, their life serves as an inspiration. Sometimes they serve also as a safety valve. My mom used to say something like, she'd pray to my dad and say, Ninoy, ano ba naman itong iniwan mo sa akin? So now, the next generation says, Mom, Dad, ano ba naman itong iniwan niyo sa akin? But at the end of the day, just remembering their lives really does point out what had already been done. And it says, it's no longer just an abstract idea. It was really done. Therefore, there's no question that we can do the more or the same, especially since we're standing on their shoulders and their achievements. And a lot of other people contributed to where we are at now.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Bob. Now, Mr. President, it's my privilege to ask the last question. Sir, what is your Christmas wish for yourself and for the country? Before, I used to ask your mom that.
Parang Christmas to the Filipinos is family time. And hopefully, family. We have 10 million Filipinos supposed to be out of the country. And you'd want some contact between the 10 million and their families here. And quality time at that. Not centered on the material things. But rather really being able to relish each second that you have to spend with each other. So the wish really is that we have that peaceful moment where we are not confronted with very severe challenges like last year's, and that we are focused on really just pausing and enjoying something that is so intrinsically part of the Filipino culture, which is having that family time. So if we are able to assist in maximizing that opportunity, then I think that is the central wish.
Thank you, sir. Now, just for the closing remarks from me also. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much to the group that asked.